place alert near my favorite fast food chain. Mom, can you give me fast food, please?
We don't have to text and call like we used to. It's really changed our lives. Did you get it?
It's all in there. Good.
We just got time.
Everybody waiting. I'll handle it. You not out in 20 minutes? Me and my chief coming in that one. Straight up. Boy, now.
They're hating. They're making money off of our pain. It's time to set some boundaries. Not all writing is free. It is not free if it terrorizes another human being.
Tanya Gersh and her family haven't seen a dime of the $14 million the court says England owes them. England is holding on to about $500,000 in Bitcoin, according to Bombanik's latest review of his crypto wallets. And England received Bitcoin valued at nearly $600,000 over the past 6 years. Another neo-Nazi getting crypto donations for hate, Robert Warren Ray, nicknamed Azimador. We caught up with him in 2017 as white supremacists gathered in Houston saying they were there to protect Confederate monuments. You said that the Holocaust, you don't believe that the Holocaust happened?
No, show me a piece of evidence. Nobody showed me a
There's evidence everywhere. Why do you hate blacks and Jews so much?
Well, I don't hate the blacks. I hate the Jews because they are behind all of this.
The 54-year-old neo-Nazi is a fugitive. Ray was indicted for illegally using tear gas against counter-protesters during the Charlottesville Unite the Right rally. He failed to show up for all of his video court appearances. While evading justice, he did show up here on DLive, getting donations while spewing hate. Megan Squire also studies online extremists and their earnings at Elon University. How successful have neo-Nazis and white supremacists been in making money on DLive?
Unfortunately, they've been very successful. I was taken aback by the amount of money that was being donated from this much younger demographic.
In a statement, DLive told CNN after January 6th, the company established a new policy under which community guideline violations will trigger automatic suspensions. DLive also said it was appalled that a number of rioters in the U.S. Capitol abused the platform to live stream their actions. Experts say the game-like arena of DLive is introducing young people into a dark world of hate.
Yo, thank you, T-Base.
And having cash on hand could make extremists even more dangerous.
Joined now by Certified. Fascinating report. Why is it so difficult to hold people accountable, but so easy for them to make money online? Is anything being done to stop this?
There is sort of, I guess is the best way to say that, which is not very satisfying. There is a whole cottage industry used by law enforcement to try and track those who are using things like cryptocurrency illegally, but it is very hard to trace it. And that is because, you should kind of think of it this way, it's like finding a thumbprint in a crime scene, but then not having a suspect that matches that thumbprint. And so you have to search and try to figure out online what cryptocurrency belongs to who. And so that is why it's very, very difficult to find this money, to be able to track this money and track those who are using it illegally.
CNN's reporting that the 9 alleged, the so-called Oath Keepers have been charged in a conspiracy to attack the Capitol. We know the group likes to say that they have a lot of, former military, law enforcement people. We've also learned that a Pennsylvania police officer is facing criminal charges for his alleged involvement in the Capitol insurrection. It's certainly troubling. I know you've been doing a lot of reporting on this.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, just recently this week also, Anderson, you had 35 people who are under investigation, police officers, for potentially taking part in this or being complicit in some way in this attack. And then you look at the extremist groups. And for anyone that is looking at this, when you look at some of these charges against them, it is clear that the government is really honing in on some of these groups who, by the way, the Oath Keepers, they actually go out and recruit. They try try to recruit former or current police officers. They try to recruit former or current members of the military. Why do they do that? Because they have tactical training. And so when you look at these indictments and you look at what they are doing, you're really seeing them hone in on these groups because they believe that they really did conspire to do this, that they planned it, that they have the tactical training to do it, that they had the equipment as well to do it. And there's plenty of text messages and things on Zillow, for example, an app that works kind of like a CV or a walkie-talkie, that they are tracking all of these different conversations where there are plans, according to federal prosecutors, that have been made before, during, and after the attack, Anderson.
These days, it can be easy to lose track of things.
Did I feed you?
But taking prescriptions shouldn't be one of them. CVS Simple Dose pre-sorts your prescriptions into packets, so you know what to take when, delivered at no cost.
This is clean.
Visit CVS.com.
Is this where our family is from? What about here? 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 Daddy's back from?
Well, actually, we're from a lot of places. See, we're from here, and there.
Turn questions you've always had into stories you can't wait to share with Ancestry.
IHOP has new breakfast burritos and bowls. With 6 pieces up, starting at $5.99, and you get them to go. Do you need a burrito? Yeah. How many times? It is
New burritos and bowls starting at $5.99. The antioxidant goodness in every bottle of Palm Wonderful makes it a potent weapon against free radicals. Your antioxidant superpower committed to protecting you from unforeseen foes. And Palm is super wonderfully delicious. Palm Wonderful, the antioxidant superpower. Big news travels fast on T-Mobile. Leader in 5G coverage and speed. Get iPhone 12 on us on each and every plan. And save 20% of your bill every month versus the other guys. Only at T-Mobile. Applebee's $1 boneless wings with any handcrafted burger.
The GOP is at a pivotal crossroad following the impeachment trial of former President Donald Trump. Only 10 Republican members of the House and 7 senators voted to impeach and remove Trump from office. A vast majority of the party siding with Trump, including most of the GOP's leaders. Now, some of those who voted against Trump are facing intense backlash from their constituents. CNN's Dan America has been following this for us. So, Dan, you recently traveled to the Ohio district represented by Congressman Anthony Gonzalez. And what are you hearing from people there?
You heard a real sense of betrayal. Now, Anthony Gonzalez was a pretty unknown Republican lawmaker from Northeast Ohio. His first election in 2018, re-elected pretty easily in 2020. The thing that set him apart was the fact that he was a top-notch football player. Actually played at Ohio State as a wide receiver, was drafted in the first round to the Indianapolis Colts, putting him with Peyton Manning, a Hall of Fame quarterback. And he got out of the NFL because of injuries after 5 years, but what really set him and put a name, had his name known, is the fact that he sided with 9 other Republicans in the House who decided to impeach former President Donald Trump. And what you heard from constituents was a shock. And Republican groups were stunned. Many of whom have called for his resignation, have unendorsed him. You had county parties that had backed him fully, saying that they are censuring him or going through the process of censuring him. And some Republicans have even lined up to challenge him in a primary in 2022. And so, we often think about this fight of the Republican Party on a federal level, of Trump versus McConnell, maybe a Josh Hawley versus a Mitt Romney. But what we're seeing is the most acute points of this challenge to the Republican Party are coming at these district levels. And to capture this, I want to read to you what Shannon Burns, a local Republican activist, said about the betrayal he felt. Now remember, Ohio State, a beloved school in Ohio, their rivals, the Michigan Wolverines, and this is what Shannon had to say. This is like him playing for the Buckeyes again, getting down to the 2-minute warning, running into the locker room, getting a Michigan jersey, and running back out. It's not that you turned your back on or you did something that you didn't like. You did long-lasting impact on members like Gonzalez.
Oh my goodness. So the long-term consequences, for, the party, as, some like me, Gonzalez, want to take a lead, but then others who say no, go as the flock.
Long-term consequences really rely on what Republicans in these counties and in these districts do. I mentioned that there are already Republicans lining up to challenge Gonzalez in a primary. The impact of those primaries will say a lot about where the Republican Party goes from here. The other aspect here, and this is actually probably something in Gonzalez's favor, is the fact that this vote happened very early in this congressional term, meaning it's over a year until he has to face voters again. And as one of the county officials told me, this county who censured Gonzalez told me, said that there are a day of an eternity in politics, and there are a number of eternities between now and when he has to face voters again. So the real question is will voters remember this vote, voters who remain deeply loyal to Trump? Will they remember this vote when they go to the ballot box in the Republican primary in 2022?
A statement has come now from Donald Trump about this. So this is just in. I want to read this. I'm going to read this in parts. The top of it just reads like a Twitter rant, so I'm going to kind of get to about a paragraph into it. It says, so now, for more than 2 years, New York City has been looking at almost every transaction I've ever done, including seeking tax returns, which were done by among the biggest and most prestigious law and accounting firms in the U.S. The Tea Party was treated far better by the IRS than Donald Trump. The Supreme Court never should have let this fishing expedition happen, but they did. This is something which has never happened to a president before. It is all Democrat-inspired in a totally Democrat location, New York City state, completely controlled and dominated by a heavily reported enemy of mine, Governor Andrew Cuomo. These are attacks by Democrats willing to do anything to stop the almost 75 million people, the most votes by far ever gotten by a sitting president, who voted for me in the election. An election which many people and experts feel that I won. I agree. Just a fact check there, that's not true. Going on here, the new phenomenon of headhunting prosecutors and AGs who try to take down their political opponents, using the law as a weapon to threaten the very foundation of our liberty. That's what is done in third world countries. Even worse are those who run for prosecutorial or attorney general offices in far left states and jurisdictions, pledging to take out a political opponent. That's fascism, not justice, and that is exactly what they are trying to do with respect to except the people of our country won't stand for it. In the meantime, Trump says here, murders and violent crime are up in New York City by record numbers and nothing is done about it. Our elected officials don't care. All they focus on is the persecution of President Donald J. Trump. I will fight on, just as I have for the last 5 years, even before I was successfully elected, got credit for parentheses, despite all of the election crimes that were committed against me. We will. Where to start here, Kristen? But let's say this is where I was heard, which is he's blaming New York, but this is a Supreme Court decision, which, and this must sting for Donald Trump, includes 3 of his nominees.
This sounds exactly like what he said. He went on Twitter to rant about the Trump University case when we first filed it against him in 2013. He said all the same stuff. He's literally just repeating himself, except now he's not limited to 280 characters anymore. So before, you have to do like 2 tweets in a row, and I think it's reined him in a little bit. That was a super long statement. Now he doesn't have a word limit anymore, character limit. He can just go on and on and on. I feel bad for you having to read it.
Well, I do think brevity was his friend before because it sort of focused his messaging. Come on. What is your reaction, John, to this statement?
Well, I think he's actually been lucky. His reaction is kind of delayed. This case was really decided in July by a 7-2 vote, where the Supreme Court said, as president, he is not immune from a state prosecutor and a state grand jury seeking his records. So this all is from the body of law that was created by Nixon during Watergate, and just a following up on that. He had the right under that July decision to appeal the breadth to any other particulars about the case, which he did, and lost in 2 lower federal courts before it went back to the Supreme Court. They sat on it for almost 4 months to issue a 16-word sentence that said the court not interested in this case, it's over. They gave him a break during the election because this could have come up pre-election and created a problem for him. So that helped everybody to have it not a political issue during the election.
In many cases, hospital staff and family members recall the fear of their patients or loved ones struggling with COVID.
I told Mom, do not be afraid, for the Lord is with us. I love you and may God bless you. Be strong for me, Mom. And all she answered me was, yes, mija. Yes, mija, with that voice, with fear.
Another matriarch of a family, May Bungus, one of her daughters was with her when she died, but her husband and other daughter never got the chance.
He said, he called me Daddy. He said, and my mom's dying. And I said, that you know, like, you despise God all the time. And I really can't go into that. It's horrible to sit there and watch my mom back there. She died. And when they took out that too, it's horrible. And we can do it.
What were your last words to me?
I love you. Sometimes. Then it never happened.
An ICU nurse in Oklahoma lost her mother, and then 3 days later, her husband to the virus.
It's just so wrong. For my husband, and then I realized my mom's gone. And I'm waiting for my mom, and I just think, oh, I'm gonna go tell Dennis is gone. And so the 2 people that would have been so supportive had the other one gone. You know, they're both gone.
The best
Among
way to
the
burn
500,
fat
almost
is with
500,000 lost.
And I'm being serious.
Younger Americans who leave their young families behind. Zarina Rose, a 42-year-old nurse, got COVID and died after giving birth. Her husband Nick shared a message for her.
Fat. And this is the type of fat that literally eats up
Do
your
you
stubborn
want it to be my choice of gift or your choice of gift?
And researchers have actually discovered that adults
Yeah, that ain't gonna pull up in the
less
crate.
active brown fat on their bodies, which is why we're not all walking around skinny. But they also discovered a way to activate this brown fat so that you can actually crank up your metabolism and start eating the food you love.
Another young mother died from COVID after giving birth to a healthy baby boy. Doctors induced Erica Becerra when her condition deteriorated, and her brother Michael described her last moments.
Body fat to fuel your body for
The last moments, she was I know she heard us. We prayed for her. Hugged her. We comforted her for the last moments. She's all like, Mom, I don't feel good. I don't feel like myself. It's hard to breathe. The weekend came along. The doctor saw her. She wasn't getting any better. They gave birth to her son. She had a normal baby. She gave birth to her son, but didn't get to hold him. Because right after she gave birth, that's when they took him to him. And then from there, she just started declining. Because all my sister was the best for everybody. And she cared about lives. She didn't deserve to go through what she went through. God needed her more than he did. And with open arms, we gave it to God last night.
Even as a nation, where many have become numb, this astronomical loss, I know that these stories of our fellow Americans puncture that armor that is natural to have accumulated over the past year, and that's okay. We need to remember the people that we have lost, even if we didn't know them personally. I know it is hard. I hear it from so many of you. I know you're tired. I know you're tapped out. It has been more than a year since the first reported coronavirus case. The quarantining, the hoping that this would subside, only to realize that it wouldn't anytime soon. The struggling to make ends meet. The worrying that if this is the day you might spike a fever or start to cough. The juggling your job and homeschooling your kids. Being afraid to see your grandparents. Being afraid to see your grandkids. Knowing that there's a vaccine that you or your loved ones can't get them. Struggling with mental health. And for almost 500,000 Americans this past year, losing their lives. This is a collective loss. We're taking this moment to acknowledge that. You are not alone. And if you are lucky enough to still have a little fuel in your tank today, it is a good day to remind someone in your life that you were there for them.
I'm Erin. And I'm Margot. We've always done things our own way, charted our own paths. I wasn't going to just back down from moderate to severe rheumatoid arthritis. Psoriatic arthritis wasn't going to change who I am. When I learned that my joint pain could mean permanent joint damage, I asked about Enbrel. Enbrel helps relieve joint pain and helps stop permanent joint damage. Plus, Enbrel helps skin get clearer in psoriatic arthritis. Ask your doctor about Enbrel so you can get back to your true self. Enbrel may lower your ability to fight infection. Serious, sometimes fatal events, including infections, tuberculosis, lymphoma, other cancers, nervous system and blood disorders, and allergic reactions have occurred. Tell your doctor if you've been someplace where fungal infections are common, or if you're prone to infections, have had sores, have had hepatitis B, have been treated for heart failure, or if you have persistent fever, bruising, bleeding, or paleness. Don't start Enbrel if you have an infection like the flu. Visit Enbrel.com to see how your joint damage could hurt less. Eligible patients may pay as little as $5 per month. With Metro by T-Mobile, Hector rules. He's putting in extra miles.
All right, that should take care of it.
He's saving up for science professional. So you're off right. You work hard. Switching to Metro is right now there's 0 fees to switch. Get our lowest price on limit for just $25 a line for 4 lines, plus 4 free Galaxy phones. Metro by T-Mobile, empowering Hector to rule his day.
Place where back to take this off the show. Someone
Home. It's more than wood, square footage, and a floor plan. It's where life happens, and moments become etched into memories. Right now, save $500 to $5,000 or more on closing costs at Bank of Hawaii. Applying takes just a few moments. The memories last a lifetime. Simplified by Bank of Hawaii. Welcome to tomorrow.
And I think that one thing you said to me private really motivated me to believe you when you talk about your aspirations. I'm wondering, just maybe by talking, answering your questions about your motivations and maybe some of your own family history, confronting hate and discrimination in American history.
Yes, Senator. So I come from a family. My grandparents fled anti-Semitism and persecution. Country to myself. Italians. I feel an obligation to pay back. This is the highest, best use of my own set of skills. So I want very much to be the kind of Attorney General that would say I would. I do my best to try to be your heart. You were living with that life.
A major decision from the U.S. Supreme Court, wherein the Supreme Court has now allowed the release of the former President Trump's tax returns to a New York prosecutor now investigating his businesses. Our Jessica Schneider has been covering this morning and for the last several weeks and months. This is a very big development here.
It is, Jim, and a big loss for the former President Trump. As you said, we've been waiting on this decision since the middle of October, and now in the middle of February, we're finally getting this decision from the Supreme Court. They are saying that the Manhattan District Attorney, Cy Vance, can
after Trump left office, they have said that these tax records can be handed over. Now, it's important to note the public will likely not get an immediate glimpse, if any glimpse, at these tax returns because these will be handed over to the Manhattan District Attorney, where they will then go to the grand jury as part of this larger investigation. This is that investigation into the hush money payments that were paid and as to whether the Trump organization did any wrongdoing in covering up these hush money payments. And there's also this investigation into bank and insurance fraud, the possibility that that was committed by the Trump organization as well. So it's important to note the public will not immediately see these tax returns. This is going to the grand jury, which operates in secret. But of course, Jim and Poppy, this is a major loss for the former president. He and his legal team have been fighting the release of these tax returns for years now. The president said throughout his presidency that he would not release the tax returns. But now they will be out there. They will be handed over because these banks have said that they will comply. They'll be handed over to the district attorney, which will then continue in its investigation here, guys.
Talk about what the standard is here, because there's already a lot of public information out there reporting about how Trump and his businesses might have stretched, right, the tax law. But let's be frank, the tax law is written very liberally, right, for a lot of these businesses. A lot of people stretch, and that's, they hire lawyers to do that. What is the standard here to establish that Trump or his businesses broke the tax law?
Yeah, Jim, so the Manhattan District Attorney's Office is going to have to prove that Donald Trump or anybody else in the Trump organization knowingly and intentionally either inflated or deflated the value of their assets. And so the tax records will be a key part of that, Donald Trump's tax returns, because the question is going to be, well, let's say they valued a certain property, a certain building. Did they value it differently in their bank applications than they did in their tax returns, for example? And if there's a discrepancy there, then that's where the sort of the heart of these criminal charges are going to come into play. As Laura said, we're not likely to actually see these tax returns unless and until this case gets to trial. But the tax returns are a key piece of the puzzle.
Hey, handsome, how you doing?
It's hard to find someone who doesn't know Linda Harris. Born and raised in Albany, Georgia, the community organizer and city employee of more than 3 decades spent the day with her team knocking on doors and handing out 2,000 flyers, urging her neighbors to get vaccinated.
Tired of losing grandparents, grandmamas, granddaddies, and somehow small kids in the city. People can't get the word out. You know that they can't get it vaccinated.
Getting the word out about a pop-up vaccination site nearby is one thing. Dispelling suspicions is another. In this small rural city, 3 hours southwest of Atlanta, nearly 3/4 of the population is African American. Many live in poor and underserved communities.
You know that years ago, there was young African Americans. So African Americans have had very well-founded distrust of government.
As the medical director for primary care at the only hospital system in Albany, Health, Dr. Derek Hurd is spearheading a grassroots effort in specific neighborhoods that he knows are not getting vaccinated. Phoebe Health is the largest vaccinator in Dougherty County, which includes Albany. Hospital health officials say white people are being vaccinated at more than twice the rate of black residents.
You and I
Dr. Hurd
have the
says
courage to say to our enemies, there is a price we will not pay, there is a point beyond which they must not advance. And what then?
A lot of that is due to the fact that we suffer from a lot of diseases that cause us to be at high risk.
So Phoebe Health partnered with the city. Dr. Hurd knows the value of having someone like Harris leading the charge on the ground. But the distrust is often deeper than a familiar face. Albany was ravaged by the coronavirus, emerging as the first hotspot in Georgia last March. Just days after 2 funerals, the virus swept through like a storm.
One of the first places to come to the trees was a case of mine. We had no number one.
The vaccination drive was not publicized in hopes of preserving the shots for this community. When the day came, there was no wait. Less than 50 people showed up. Jesse Massey was one of them.
A lot of my friends are not on the same page. A lot of people are still looking at getting the shot.
I think today is word of mouth again that those that have
listen to the community. Because you know what it tells the people, telling we here, we care about you, we concerned about you.
In Albany, Georgia, Amaryl Walker, CNN.
I'm Erin, and I'm Margot. We've always done things our own way, charted our own paths. I wasn't going to just back down from moderate to severe rheumatoid arthritis. Psoriatic arthritis wasn't going to change who I am. When I learned that my joint pain could mean permanent joint damage, I asked about Embro. Embro helps relieve joint pain and helps stop permanent joint damage. Plus, Embro helps skin look clearer in psoriatic arthritis. Ask your doctor about Embro so you can get back to your true self. Embro may lower your ability to fight infections. Serious, sometimes fatal events including infections, tuberculosis, lymphoma, other cancers, nervous system and blood disorders, and allergic reactions have occurred. Tell your doctor if you've been someplace where fungal infections are common, or if you're prone to infections, have cuts or sores, have had hepatitis B, have been treated for heart failure, or if you have persistent fever, freezing, bleeding, or paleness. Don't start Embro if you have an infection like this now. Visit Embro.com to see how your joint damage can feel less. Embro, eligible patients may pay as little as $5 per month. This is my body of proof.
Proof of less joint pain and clearer skin.
Proof that I can fight psoriatic arthritis.
With Humira. Humira targets and blocks a specific source of inflammation that contributes to both joint and skin symptoms. It's proven to help relieve pain, stop further irreversible joint damage, and clear skin in adults. Humira is the #1 prescribed biologic for psoriatic arthritis.
Humira can lower your ability to fight infections, serious and sometimes fatal infections including tuberculosis, cancers, lymphoma, blood, invasive nervous system problems, serious allergic reactions, and new or worsening heart failure. Tell your doctor if you've been to areas where certain fungal infections are common, and if you've had TB, hepatitis B, or prone to infections, if you like symptoms or sores, don't start Humira if you have an infection.
Ask your hematologist about Humira.
Go to Humira.com to see proof in action.
Good Monday to you. I'm meteorologist Pedro Alvarez for CNN Weather.
He said there's something going on in time and space beyond time and space, which, whether we like it or not, spells duty. You and I have a rendezvous with destiny. We'll preserve our children this the last best hope of man on earth, or we'll sentence them to take the last step to 1,000 years in darkness. We will keep in mind and remember that there is whoever has faith in Christ. He has faith that you and I have the ability, the dignity, and the right to make our own decisions and determine our own destiny.
Get into the green and white mountains, get into the northern portions of New England, and it is going to be all snow for you here to wrap up these last few days of February. How about this? I'm going to give you some warmth across the large area of the U.S. Yes, 7 days. Back to the forecast. Of course, Dallas, Massachusetts Road, temperatures now 7 degrees. The northern tier of the U.S. Back towards the west, an avalanche is in place. Of course, we've talked about the significance of avalanches in recent weeks across parts of the western U.S. So certainly be on alert across this region. Weather alerts in place on the northern Cascade. Quite a bit of windy weather as well. Actually being emerging towards west there. Unfortunately, northwest of northern Montana. Incoming system. Telltale signs here of an atmospheric river event. So quite a bit of moisture directed into this region, especially located where it is on the northwest coastline. Seattle out of 52, 54 out of Portland. Minneapolis and Minos, temperatures here were about 20 degrees below zero in the past week or so. I'd like to think 40 plus above over the next 24 hours. Around Memphis, high temps once again at low 50s.
MERRICK, PARLAND.
His career has spanned public service, private practice, litigation, negotiation, 3 high posts in the U.S. Department of Justice, Chief Judge Merrick Garland.
Three movies were made of the period in which, a very short period in which I was in the Justice Department. American Hustle, about the Afghan case. Argo, about the exploitation of hostages. And Miracle on Ice. It's about the Lake Track Olympics where I did work on the skiing today.
Greatest honor of my life. Other than not being married 100 years ago.
Ensuring the rule of law and making the promise of equal justice under law real are the great principles upon which the Department of Justice was founded and for which it must always stand. From ensuring racial equity in our justice system, soap you shower with, meeting the evolving threat of violent extremism. If confirmed, those are the principles to which I will be devoted.
After United Airlines Flight 328 experienced engine failure shortly after takeoff Saturday, the company is temporarily removing all 24 of its Boeing 777 airplanes with Pratt & Whitney PW4000 engines from service out of an abundance of caution.
Departure United 321 Mayday aircraft just experienced engine failure, need to turn immediately.
A United pilot making a mayday call on the flight heading from Denver to Honolulu. Passengers watch the right engine fire off flames. Pieces of the plane fall off in terror.
I looked out and I could see some smoke coming and I just knew, you just know something's wrong, something's not right.
All of a sudden there's a big explosion out my window. My wife and I held hands and just pushed our kids through the ceiling.
Oh my God. Hang on 1 second, we're getting blown up with 911 calls.
And on the ground, the engine malfunction sending a trail of debris raining down into suburban Denver neighborhoods.
I looked up. As I'm looking at it, I can see, fire both sides of the plane and explosion. So, I was stopped, I turned, and then we saw something, oh my God, it just turned over loud.
This gigantic piece of metal landing right into this front yard.
We heard this big crash boom, and this big silver piece roll right in front of our picture window there. And I'm going like, what the heck is that?
There were no injuries reported for the passengers and crew on the plane or in the Broomfield, Colorado neighborhood where most of the debris fell. Boeing now recommending that all 777 airplanes with that engine model should suspend operations while the National Transportation and Safety Board investigates. This after the Federal Aviation Administration issued an emergency order saying it would step up inspections of Boeing 777 aircraft with the same engine model that failed Saturday.
The question is, how do you properly inspect these fan blades? They're hollow, they're big, each of them weighs about 30 pounds, and they crack from the inside out.
Now, the NTSB is investigating why United Aircraft experienced what aviation experts are describing as an uncontained engine failure.
They're going to want to know if this was a flaw that was embedded for years, sort of a smoking time bomb, if you will, or it was something that happened more recently, and was it missed in inspection? So the NTSB has a lot to do.
You were looking at pieces of metal that broke off and fell to the ground from a Boeing 747 cargo plane in the Netherlands. The plane was bound for New York on Saturday when it experienced an engine fire shortly after takeoff, according to Dutch officials. 2 people were injured and several cars and houses were damaged in the small town of Neuscher. CNN's Melissa Bell joins us now from Paris. Melissa, it is certainly similar to what happened to the plane over Colorado. What more you learned about this? Well, one thing that we are learning, Rosie, is that although this was a Boeing 747 as opposed to the Boeing 777 as in the Denver incident, what was the same was the type of engine used, that is, Pratt & Whitney 4000 model. So that is of interest. And for
subject of an investigation to try and figure out exactly what happened. But what we know so far is that it was just seconds after it took off that air traffic controllers realized that there was an engine fire. The pilots of the plane then took on the emergency procedures to land it as safely as they could. The decision was made not to turn the plane around and come back to Maastricht, but rather to have it land in neighbouring Belgium in Liège. Not because the plane couldn't make it back, but because the airstrip at Liège is longer than the one at Maastricht, and so it was deemed safer for a plane that might be in trouble. It then landed safely, but of course not before. You just showed those pictures. Bits of metal had fallen down onto that town. And of course, you'll understand that would have been pretty terrifying for anyone who might have been in the neighborhood. So that was the subject of investigation. But although these are different Boeings involved, this one, as you say, is 747 cargo plane on its way to New York, it is of interest, of course, that we are once again talking about that particular model of tracking with the engine.
For people living with HIV, keep being you and ask your doctor about it. Biktarvy is a complete one pill, once a day treatment used for HIV in certain ways. It's not a cure, but with one small pill, Biktarvy fights HIV to help you get to and stay undetected. That's when the amount of virus is so low it cannot be measured by a lab test. Research shows people who take HIV treatment every day and get to and stay undetectable can no longer transmit HIV through sex.
Serious side effects can occur, including kidney problems and kidney failure. Rare, life-threatening side effects include a buildup of lactic acid and liver problems. Do not take Biktarvy if you take dofetilide or rifampicin. Tell your doctor about all the medicines and supplements you take if you are pregnant or breastfeeding, or if you have kidney or liver problems, including hepatitis. If you have hepatitis B, do not stop taking Biktarvy without talking to your doctor. Common side effects were diarrhea, nausea, and headache.
If you're living with HIV, keep loving who you are and ask your doctor if Biktarvy is right for you.
Ancestry gave us context. This whole world of people, adventurous people, and survivors. It was interesting to think about their lives, their successes, and their hardships. I think that's part of what I want my kids to know. They come from people who were brave and took risks, big risks. No pressure.
Bring your family history to life like Ancestry.com.
Applebee's $1 boneless wings with any handcrafted burger.
I want my kids to know they come from people who were brave and took risks, big risks.
Bring your family history to life like never before. Get started for free at Ancestry.com.
This New Year's Eve, fire destroyed everything Betty Campbell owned.
It started at the end of the air conditioning.
Even the urn containing her son's ashes are now gone. He died last year after contracting COVID-19.
It was just heartbreaking to think that somebody has lost everything that they owned.
When Captain Dina Out and fellow firefighters from Firehouse 11 in Raleigh responded to the scene, she found the 76-year-old woman who had recently moved into the shed behind her sister's home was more concerned about getting to work the next day.
And after she found out that she lost everything, she asked me if I would see if I could find her parking. She worked 2 jobs and she still had to get to work the next day.
When Allie went home that
from across the country. My mom gave me money.
Serving others is
she's my third daughter.
Nothing better than having a second mom.
February 21st, 2020 is a date the people of Codogno, Italy will never forget. It was here in this tiny town that Italy's first case of COVID-19 was reported, resulting in a complete lockdown of their town and the beginning of what would become a national and international pandemic.
È stata un'esperienza.
Resident Pietro Cervi says it was the mother of all tests. We live differently now.
Delle prove.
The mayor of Codogno, Francesco Passerini, says he still gets goosebumps when he remembers that day, which took them all by surprise. It seemed the risk in Europe, he says, was practically zero, nothing. Instead, it was among us and had already stricken.
Invece era già tra noi e aveva già colpito.
From that first patient, Italy has seen the disease spread to more than 2.7 million citizens and close to 100